Hello, my name is Vibha, and I talk to you all about subsidies. A subsidy is a sum of money granted by the government to assist an individual or business so that the price of a product or service can remain low or competitive and the firm can continue to make profit. The subsidy is typically given to remove some type of burden and it is often considered to be in the overall interest of the public, given to promote social good or an economic policy. A subsidy typically supports particular sectors of a nation's economy. It can assist struggling industries by lowering the burden placed on them or encourage new developments by providing financial support for the end viewers. Often, these areas are not being effectively supported through actions of the general economy or may be undercut by activities in rival economies.
So government subsidy help an industry by paying for part of a cost of the production of a good or a service by offering tax credits or by paying a part of the cost.
I would now like to call my friend Anshul on stage to explain why the government might provide a monopoly subsidy.
So, as you all know, an unregulated monopoly can inflate their prices by reducing the quantity they produce. But the government can come in and place a price ceiling, which is a cap on how much they can charge. The government can place this price ceiling at the socially optimal price, which is where the MC and demand curves intersect. This socially optimal price is usually below the ATC, so if the monopoly produces at this point, they will make a profit, and this means that they don't have an incentive to stay in that industry. So this is bad for the consumers because they're the only producer of that product or service, since it's a monopoly. So in order to drive down the prices and keep the monopoly from exiting the industry, the government provides the firm with a subsidy. If this subsidy was not provided, then the monopoly would have no incentive to stay in the business and it would just leave the industry. So as you can see here, this is a curve for a monopoly. So this is where the monopoly would produce if it was an unregulated monopoly. So you get that point by um, finding the quantity where MC and MR intersect, and then you just go up to demand and then over to price. So this is the quantity of an unregulated monopoly and price of unregulated monopoly. But the government can come in and place the price ceiling and force the monopoly to produce at the socially optimal price, which is where MC and ATC intersect, right here. So as you can see, this point is below the ATC. So this means that the monopoly wouldn't make any profit if they produce at the socially optimal price. So this is why the government needs to provide that firm with subsidy and incentivize them to stay in the industry. So this is the supply and demand curve for perfect competition firm, and as you can see that this is the original supply and demand. This is where the firm would produce if no subsidy had been provided, and when the government does provide a subsidy, that increases the supply and shifts it to the right, as you can see over here with the second supply curve. Because of this shift, the supply and demand curve, where they intersect, there's going to be a higher quantity produced and a lower price. And this is because the demand curve is downward sloping.
Some types of subsidies include federal aid for college, tax exemptions, and loan guarantees. Federal aid is when the government offers subsidized loans to students based on their financial need when applying for aid through the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. The purpose of this is to encourage and help people to further their education. A tax exemption is something that reduces or completely eliminates one's obligation to pay tax. Tax exemptions are given by state and federal governments mainly to organizations that serve the public, like charities and religious organizations. A loan guarantee is a promise made by one party to assume the debt obligation of a borrower if that borrower defaults. A guarantee can be limited or unlimited, making the person who guarantees it able to pay for only some or all of the debt. Two other common types of individual subsidies are welfare payment and unemployment benefits. The objective of these types of subsidies is to help people who are temporarily suffering economically. So we called the Cincinnati Union Bethel to ask them if they were funded by subsidies, and this is what they said.
And Louisiana, I help you?
Hi, is this Cincinnati Union Bethel?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Hi. I just want to ask, is this support by government subsidies?
It depends on what you're talking about. Are you talking about the child Head Start programs or the housing program or the OTS program?
Either one is any funded by government subsidies.
Yes.
According to the most recent information available, the state of Ohio spent $3.24 billion on incentive programs and the government subsidies. 11 cents of every dollar from the state budget goes towards subsidies. The main industries that receive subsidies in Ohio are manufacturing, electricity, and agriculture with $1.9 billion, $492 million, and $292 million, respectively. An example of a subsidy given to a business in our area was when Ohio and Cincinnati agreed to give General Electric a record subsidy deal which was mostly composed of its workers' personal income taxes. About 1,400 jobs were relocated because GE had to move to its global operations centers to downtown Cincinnati. About 300 new jobs accepted this $98 million subsidy package, which is approximately uh, $326,600 per job.